According to the International Council on Human Rights Policy 2002, the media has become more interested in human rights violations and the institutional apparatus that has been designed to promote and protect human rights. However, the media is also faced with an important challenge. How well do they use, explain and analyze human rights standards and mechanisms? Gmedia Center, a Geneva-based initiative with support from the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs and the Irish government, recently organized a human rights workshop for journalists from Nigeria, Senegal and Chad to enhance their capabilities in human rights reporting.
The program is a program by an NGO called Gmedia, based in Geneva. We as the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs have decided to support Gmedia in this program. Gmedia aims to bring together journalists from the world over who have a particular interest in human rights matters, and basically they try and provide quality training to these journalists on how best to identify human rights stories, to cover human rights stories, to report on these human rights stories, and basically to raise awareness and promote the issue of human rights in their respective countries. So Switzerland and Nigeria have a very strong relationship in the field of human rights, and that is just one of the projects that we have embarked on to support Nigerian journalists to come to Geneva and attend the Universal Periodic Review of their country.
We want you to be able to report and to bring back the information to your country about what's been discussed here in Geneva, what's been discussed by the state delegation, by the Nigerian state delegation that was presenting the report to the UN, and also about all the recommendations and concerns of the state and permanent missions that are at the UN. We want you to be able to report on that, to write articles and TV and radio broadcasts, because it's a tool for us to raise awareness on issues related to human rights and to violation of human rights. And also we want you to be able to disseminate the results and the knowledge that you acquired here in Geneva.
The workshop specifically provided journalists with knowledge improvement, skills development, accurate sources, accessibility to institutional apparatus in Geneva, constructive interaction, accountability and empowerment. Participants were also privileged to witness the Universal Periodic Review sessions of their countries at the United Nations in Geneva.
In 2009 and 2013, Nigeria accepted several international human rights instruments, including the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the Convention on the Protection of All Persons from Enforced Disappearance, the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime and Genocide, and the optional protocol on the rights of persons.
With regard to the issue of women and disadvantaged groups raised by Netherlands and the United Kingdom, Nigeria is particularly mindful of the need to protect the rights of women and disadvantaged groups such as orphans, widows, the disabled, the mentally incapacitated persons, the elderly and the sick. It is for this reason that we sign and ratify CEDAW. Government has put in place adequate laws and policies to protect children against all forms of violence. In addition to the provisions of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, we have the Child Rights Act, which is the fundamental legal instrument for the protection of children against violence and other forms of abuse.
We also remain concerned that Nigerian law and practice do not meet ILO standards on freedom of association, including a legislatively imposed trade union monopoly. We recommend Nigeria, 1. Hold security forces accountable for human rights violations and establish a system for human rights monitoring to promote accountability for gross violations of human rights.
Germany would like to submit the following recommendations to the government of Nigeria. First, to ensure the training of all military and security personnel necessary to the human rights component and their effective protection of human rights during service assured and monitored. Second, to urgently address the issue of impunity by strengthening the rule of law, including through a review of the judicial system.
We believe that Nigeria's presence in the Security Council will be used to contribute to the state of address challenges posed by security and terrorism, such as in this regard to support the request by Nigeria for technical assistance to enhance its capacity to address these challenges. We commend Nigeria for the significant progress made in deepening the democratic and human rights culture.
Participating journalists from Africa, including Nigeria, representing Superscreen Television, Radio Senegal, Television TFM, ONR TV, among others, shared their experiences on the workshop.
I appreciate a lot this workshop. It's enabled me to know more about human rights protection in my country and what is to be done for my country, and the UN mechanism for assessing the human rights implementation in my country.
Take part in this important session, and I take the advantage of this opportunity to thank Gmedia that had invited me for the first time to this session in such a beautiful city as Geneva. It has been a chance to meet colleagues from Senegal and Nigeria.
The program is interesting. Yeah, it's quite marvelous, really.
It's indeed a capacity building experience for me as a person going back to Nigeria, and it's definitely going to impact on my work as a journalist covering human rights.
I have learned a lot about the UPR and the mechanisms of evaluation about human rights in the United Nations. It is an enriching experience, an experiment for everybody.
All I will say about this workshop is that it has helped me a lot to understand the questions about human rights, women's rights and children's rights through the sessions at the United Nations of the Nigeria and the Senegal. I got the opportunity to see the key role of journalists in human rights issues, and I come home with a feeling of an accomplished duty by Gmedia, thanks to the knowledge it provides me. It is believed that when journalists are armed with the right tools and with adequate public awareness on human rights issues, governments will be held accountable for the discussions and recommendations made in Geneva, and most importantly, the implementation of human rights.
Here participating at the Gmedia workshop for journalists, and it's been an amazing experience. It's been great meeting all the journalists from Senegal and Chad, and most importantly the information and the enlightenment that we've got with the UPR process, the UN mechanism, and every other thing that we've learned. Networking with people, organizations, it's been priceless, really, it's been priceless.
Anwuli Ngene, Superscreen News.